call from GoTo.
Has prevented the National Guard from quickly restoring order. The acting Secretary of Defense actually restrained the DC Guard from...
Hi, everybody. This is Heather with the city. Sorry we had a little technical difficulty on our end, but I think we got it solved now. I'm going to ask everybody to mute yourself to start out with so that we don't have any background noise as we get our meeting started. And just as some tips to get going, you should have been sent the order of presentations. But in case that you were not, I'll read it off to you really quick just so you have it, so you are prepared for when your turn is. So first is humility, then Friendly House, then Vera French, then Project Renewal, then Boys and Girls Club, then Big Brothers Big Sisters, then Family Resources, then Salvation Army, and then the city rehab program and the city staff and operations. So that's the order of things, just so that you know kind of when to expect your turn in case you don't have that in front of you. So again, for those that just came on, if you could please mute yourselves. We just don't want a lot of background noise. And then we have our CAC here in our city council chambers. We'll get started here in a moment. You'll be kind of announced when it's your turn, and then you can mute yourself or unmute yourself. And then until then, it would be only our CAC members talking. We have some of them here in the office, and some of them are calling in remotely. So that's kind of how we'll run it. With that, we're going to have our vice chair, Austin Bird, is going to be running the meeting, unless by any chance, Mark Holloway, are you one of the two callers that don't have a name attached to them? Caller 7 and caller 9, if you're on the phone. So then our vice chair, Austin, will just get us kicked off here.
I'll call to order the February 1st meeting of the Citizens Advisory Commission for the City of Davenport. Heather, will you start us with a roll call, please?
Yes. Do you want to do it, or do you want me to?
I think I've got it.
Okay.
Obleton. Here. Hodges. Here. Lord. Bird.
Here.
Klassen.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Gilmore.
Here.
Johnson. R.
Present.
Kiefer.
Here.
Yeah, I can't see who else is up there. Sorry.
Patel.
Here.
Kelly. Nolan.
Present.
Winkler.
Here.
Woods. And Holloway. Okay. We have a quorum, so we can go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Heather. Are there any citizens with business for the commission? Seeing none, we'll move to our next item. I don't see it on the agenda. However, we have been given a statement to read prior to us beginning the main part of our meeting. Members of the Citizens Advisory Committee, city staff, all present here tonight, and everyone watching on television are very much aware of the efforts at the federal level to control spending and to work toward a balanced federal budget. While these goals are very commendable and understandable, it does raise a concern about the future of the Community Development Block Grant Program. The program has experienced significant funding reductions in recent years. The current year's grant represents a 45% cut from the high point of the CDBG program. Additional cuts are not out of the question. A factor of the block grant program perhaps not widely recognized or understood, is the reporting requirements of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which operates the program. That federal agency requires detailed and timely reporting of funding uses and expenditures. It is a concern that failure to comply with accurate and timely reporting criteria could possibly be a factor in determining future funding allocations. With that said, the CAC wants to emphasize to all participants in the CDBG program the importance of accurate and prompt reporting to city staff and why increased emphasis is being placed on these matters with program recipients and will be emphasized with all future applicants. Because of the federal funding climate, in addition to considering the need and merits of the programs and services applying for funding, the CAC must also take into account each applicant's timeliness and accuracy in reporting on the use of funds, as well as their overall regulatory compliance. The CAC has requested from city staff that all information regarding past compliance of currently funded applicants. That data will be used to evaluate each agency's capacity and record in managing CDBG funds and complying with CDBG regulations. Thank you. All right, so on to our next item. We will begin with our subrecipient application presentations. First up is Humility Homes and Services. Who will be speaking for Humility Homes and Services? Please unmute yourself.
Hello, I'm Ashley Velez. I'm speaking for Humility.
Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you for having us. So thank you for inviting us here tonight. HHSI operates a 70-bed emergency shelter for individuals 18 years of age and older. We're located at 1016 West 5th Street in Davenport. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the public health declarations to mitigate its spread, since March 18th of 2020, we have shifted to isolation housing in hotels per the guidance of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This means that individuals are limited to 32 at our congregate shelter in order to maintain social distancing, and the remainder of people are served in our hotels for their safety and the safety of our staff, our staying in individual hotel rooms. HHSI has averaged more than 100 individuals per night since the beginning of the pandemic. Currently, we have 155 individuals enrolled in our shelter program. That's more than double our normal capacity. Individuals have been provided with masks, meals, food pantry items, in addition to housing services provided by our housing specialists. From March 18, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, we have provided 22,683 nights of shelter in hotel rooms. It's nearly $1 million worth of rooms. Additionally, from March 18th to January 25th of 2021, HHSI has provided 42,233 meals to our participants. These are additional expenses that had not been budgeted in or accounted for prior to the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused many challenges, including seeing local landlords being skittish to leasing units during an eviction moratorium. This has extended our average length of stay per night and reduced our primary outcome exiting individuals to permanent housing as quickly as we have been. We utilize a low barrier model here at HHSI to provide services to our participants. Low barrier means we try to make it as easy as possible for people to get in. For example, you don't need an identification, we don't check a criminal background check, we do intakes, and if we have openings, any time of the day, individuals may enter our shelter. In addition, we accept individuals who are struggling with serious mental health issues and may be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Our goal is to meet a person where they are at and provide them with client-centered support and work with them to identify housing of their choice. There are no time limits to a person's shelter stay with us. We recognize each person's barriers to housing will create a unique path that they need to follow to become housed. However, in order to stay in our shelter and receive services, you must actively be working on a housing plan. HHSI seeks CDBG funds to support a housing specialist. We employ 3 full-time housing specialists who help identify an individual's barriers to housing. They create a targeted plan for them to obtain housing, and then they work collaboratively with the individual to get them out of shelter as quickly as possible. They are trained in crisis management, trauma-informed care, and motivational interviewing. In conjunction with other community partners, we use evidence-based assessment tools, which efficiently identify a person's need and barriers to housing. Then together we take actions to address those barriers, anything from obtaining identification to conducting a job search for the person. The state average in Iowa for emergency shelter stays, according to the Institute for Community Alliance, is 45 days, and 25% of participants in shelters across the state exit to permanent housing destinations. With our model, the data shows, in our data, HHSI housing specialists really help exit people to housing destinations, as our permanent housing, our length of stay is only 36 days, and 18% of participants exited to permanent housing. And that was in FY20. In FY21, our average length of stay is 46 days due to the pandemic. However, 40% of our participants have exited to permanent housing. CDBG funds are an integral part of supporting our emergency shelter by helping to fund a staff position vital to the ongoing success of our participants. Without this financial commitment, caseloads would increase, outcomes would suffer, and the cycle of homelessness will continue. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Ashley. Does anyone have any questions for Ashley? All right, seeing none. Thank you again for your time, Ashley. We appreciate you coming to present with us.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Heather?
I was just going to suggest, Ashley, if you could talk a moment about where the funding for those hotels are coming from. I don't think all of our CAC members understand about the FEMA dollars and all of that stuff. If you could just touch on that for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we received FEMA dollars and have since April of 2020 from the federal government. Scott County is the recipient, and then we are a sub-recipient of Scott County. So up until recently, for like the last couple of weeks, we were paying 15% of the match, and the county, the FEMA was paying 85% for the hotels. President Biden signed an executive order about 2 weeks ago, I believe it's been now, where FEMA is covering 100% of the hotel costs.
And is that was just extended, was it not? The FEMA covering 100%? What was the new deadline?
Yeah, so before it was every 30 days that we had to reapply, and now it's extended till the end of September of this year.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure the CAC understood that part. I didn't think, we
yeah,
hadn't discussed
absolutely.
it amongst our group, so I just wanted to make sure they got the picture. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Our next presenter is Friendly House, who is here to speak on behalf of Friendly House.
Hi, I'm Steve Gathent. I'm from Friendly House.
Welcome, Steve. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you guys so much for letting me come and talk. The CDBG funds help a lot with Friendly House youth program staff, and so I want to talk tonight about some of what our programs offer. Founded in 1896, Friendly House has actually worked with children since the very beginning, meaning that for over 125 years, we've enjoyed the opportunity to serve thousands of kids. So as I said, I want to take just my brief little time here to share some of the values and distinctives of what our programs offer. To begin with, we adjust our programs based around the needs of the low and extremely low income families that we serve. During the COVID pandemic, for example, schools needed to regularly adjust their schedules from hybrid to completely remote and back again, meaning that students were learning from home anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week. Many parents and guardians, however, were unable to work from home or switch work hours, and they couldn't skip shifts without the danger of losing their job altogether. So throughout the COVID pandemic, therefore, we have taken extra steps to keep our youth programs open, while also providing a safe, clean, warm environment. We started by altering our schedules in response, changing our after-school program to an all-day service to ensure that students too young to be left at home had a place to go where they could participate in their school activities remotely while their parents or guardians were at work. Of course, in times without a pandemic, weather can also create a similar challenge, and we understand that work schedules cannot always be altered due to inclement weather. So we do everything that we can to stay open. If schools are closed early, for example, participants in our program are still picked up, brought back to our center, and then we stay open until every single one of them is picked up by a parent or guardian. If school is canceled, we are open for full-day programming. A second key value that we offer is that we work hard to maintain quality programs while keeping our costs low. Our after-school, our plus day, and our summer daycare programs, which are all state licensed, provide youth the opportunity to broaden their knowledge base and improve their self-esteem, while also developing physical, emotional, social, and intellectual skills that are essential to becoming well-rounded individuals. Children are given structure and guidance through a variety of activities and field trips, providing for many of them opportunities they may not otherwise be able to participate in. Part of how we maintain some of this value is through a number of key community partnerships and collaborations for our youth programs, which include, but are not limited to, First Tee, Boy Scouts, Master Gardeners, Bettendorf Rotary, Optimist Clubs, St. Ambrose, the CACFP, the Miss Iowa program, and more. While certainly many of these programs looked different in 2020 due to COVID, we are excited to get back to normal as soon as possible. We also strive at Friendly House to keep costs low and not pass on expenses to our families. Snacks and meals are provided at no additional cost, along with transportation to field trips and from school for our after-school program. We currently provide transportation from Madison, Garfield, and Adams, while kids can walk from Jefferson since their building is right next to our facility. Families also have access to additional Friendly House programs and services, including our preschool, our food pantry, family services, family nights, educational scholarships, and holiday assistance. And then to keep costs low, we actually take great pride in being great stewards of the money that we receive, and we continue to work hard to raise enough funding to offer proper support for the families we serve. Like just about every other nonprofit, Friendly House was not immune to the financial issues caused by the COVID quarantine. As I already alluded to, we increased youth service hours from after school to all day, which in turn increased wages. We also had increased costs for food, for masks, thermometers, sanitation and cleaning supplies, along with other needs to keep our facilities safe and clean. Unfortunately, we also had to cancel 3 different fundraising events during the 2020 calendar year. And we saw income from the community renting our building drop significantly, both of which are typically key revenue streams to support our youth programs. In response, we worked hard to identify local funders and successfully raised enough money through grants and donations to cover all the needs to ensure we could continue to offer the same high quality, low cost services to families in need. While tonight, I would have loved to have brought a parent into this conversation to have them share their story about how Friendly House has served them. COVID and technology complicated that. So you're gonna have to suffice for a short story and a quote. Darcy's 2 children.
I'm sorry. Hi, this is Dawn. Usually when you're presenting in person, I'm the person who has to give you the bad news that we're running out of time. So now I have to just do it this way, which I think is a little bit impersonal, but you've got about 30 seconds.
Yep, that's fine. Darcy's 2 children had some behavioral issues that would have gotten them thrown out of many programs. But Darcy said, however, that Friendly House, quote, worked with us and they worked with the children for a positive result. Now, just a few years later, the children absolutely love it. Again, quoting Darcy, if they have a day off, they get so upset. They're like, we want to go to the Friendly House. The programs are just phenomenal. The things they do are amazing. I just cannot believe the giving of the teachers and the caring of all the staff. So as we look ahead to this year in the future, we are excited to work with more students, more children like Darcy's, to help them experience these same phenomenal programs and positive results. Thank you so much for your support and your help tonight.
Thank you, Steve. Do any members of the CAC have questions for Steve? All right, seeing none, thank you. Oh, Heather, go ahead.
I just want to remind our CAC members who are calling in on the phone that you can feel free to ask questions as well. There's not a button for you to push to let us know, so you'll just have to speak up if you have any questions. So just a little reminder.
Thank you again, Steve.
Thank you very much.
All right, our next presenter is Vera French.
My name is Mark Cummings, and for reasons that are unclear to me, this is much more intimidating than doing it in person. I support Vera French, or I represent Vera French's Supported Community Living Program, also known as SCL. SCL works with people who are able to live in their own apartments or homes but who require an extra layer of support to keep them independent and out of expensive residential facilities. The services they receive are highly individualized. We help people set up medications and pill organizers so that they can more easily track whether or not they've taken the right dose on the right day at the right time. Some of our clients have symptoms that make it extremely hard for them to focus so that they can accurately fill up the pill organizers without help. Many of our clients spend a great deal of their lives trapped in their apartments by depression or anxiety or both. I carry in my mind a vivid picture that sums up a great deal of what we do. It's an abandoned shopping cart in the middle of an aisle at a grocery store half full of items with the shopper nowhere to be found. If you've ever come across such a cart, it may very well be that a person with extremely high anxiety levels and no SCL worker to help them reached a tipping point in the middle of the aisle where the anxiety became so intense that they had to flee the store without completing their purchases. One of the new clients I enrolled this year was astonished when I talked to him about the abandoned shopping cart. He thought he was the only person in the world that had ever happened to. Another new client shared with me that sometimes when he fled the store, he would vomit in the parking lot because of the panic he was feeling. A client who has been the victim of a horrific physical assault and who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder may find it completely impossible to confront their accuser in court without their SCL specialist there to provide comfort and encouragement. Issues with concentration can create challenges in communicating with providers of goods and services. A client who had to switch his primary insurance from Medicaid to Medicare didn't understand that he needed a supplement. Until we were able to help him get that straightened out, he got hundreds of dollars of copays that he could barely afford to pay. The pandemic has created many obstacles for all of us. Fortunately, SCL continues to provide services for all of our clients. For the safety of both staff and clients, normal procedures were required to change. We've increased telephone contact while still seeing people face-to-face where it was essential. We tried to be creative in ways of keeping clients safe. A client who needed help filling out a form, we went to their home. They opened the door a crack, passed the form out to us. We went out to the car, sat in the car and talked to them over the phone, filled the form out with them over the phone, and then passed it back to them through a crack to keep them safe. We've continued to assist clients in person with necessities such as groceries, toiletries, and other supports as needed. The SCL program is designed to enable clients to remain in the least restrictive and least expensive environment, their own homes. The services SCL provides to clients promote independence, allowing individuals to avoid admission into group homes and residential care facilities. The generous contributions from the Community Development Block Grant have allowed us to continue to provide services, and on behalf of our clients and staff, we would like to thank the CAC for its continued support.
Thank you, Mark. Does anyone on the phone have any questions for Mark? Anyone in person have any questions for Mark? Heather, anything? All right. All right, thank you again, Mark. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next presenter will be Project Renewal.
Hi there, I'm Ann from Project Renewal. First, I'm going to share a couple comments from kids that were in program today when I told them I was coming to this meeting. Then I have a guest, Bernard, will share. He has worked and volunteered for Project Renewal for the last couple years. I'll start out when I asked Trayvon, who's in grade 5, why kids should come to the Treat House or to Project Renewal's youth programs. He said, so we can learn stuff and have fun. I asked Tamara, who's in grade 3, and she said, so we can get treats, talk to helpers, make friends, and so my mom and dad can go to work. Next, I'll have Bernard share his thoughts on the experience he's had at Project Renewal.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bernard Buhaki. I'm a senior at St. Ambrose University, and I'm from Arlington, Texas. So when I first heard about Project Renewal, I saw it as a way for me to give back to a community that I would call home for the last 4 years that I've been calling home here, 13 hours away from home. and it's really like changed my life for the better. I've been able to become a positive role model to kids in the community, and being able to just interact with kids and see life from a different perspective. I realized quickly that everyone deals with different situations every day. Everybody is everyone is born into a different situation, but the way to get through all situations is with positivity and a smile. And I think that's what Project Renewal brings to everyone, a smile and positivity. Being a helper, that's all I could really do. I try to emphasize to everyone that smiling and just being positive and being nice with the kids all the time just made their days better, because you don't know what's happening when they're at home, but they know they can feel safe at the treat house. So that's something that I was really proud to do, and I'm glad I can be able to keep doing it.
Thanks, Bernard. So Project Renewal's youth program is an important part of many families' lives. It creates stability, it fills needs, and it gives people love and hope for a meaningful future. We've been able to continue providing that through the challenges of COVID, giving stability to our families, supporting kids academically, giving them recreational experiences, and social emotional support. The funding we are requesting helps us build those relationships. It provides stability, and as we quickly learned a year ago almost, when people were being isolated at home, we were still able to have all our volunteers and staff reach out and partnered with every one of our kids to continue engagement, whether it's through writing letters in the mail, email messages, talking on the phone, text messaging, Facebook, FaceTime, and that's just the value, not in addition to the things, the material items, but I think our biggest asset is our people, our volunteers and staff who provide those experiences for our children. So by CDBG being part of that, you are helping, and the service we are providing has low overhead, high impact, and changes people's lives for the better.
Thank you very much. Does anybody on the CAC in person have any comments or questions? Anyone on the phone have any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, thank you again for Project Renewal.
Thank you.
Our next presenter, Boys and Girls Club.
Hi, this is Liz Zimmerman-Waldman from the Boys and Girls Club. Heather, can you give me a wave if you can hear me? Yay, thank you. So first of all, I just want to thank the CAC again for your support of the Boys and Girls Club. What you guys support is our #1 resource, which is our club staff. And as you can imagine, it's been an interesting year to be that club staff, and with the work that they've been doing, it's just been tremendous. Probably the hardest thing for us in the past year has been, what does it mean to be a building-based youth development center when you don't have access to your building? Unfortunately, because we are in a building owned by the school district, we couldn't necessarily set our hours to be open when kids really needed us. But our staff really worked hard and found a lot of different ways for them to be involved with the kids. A lot of that involved virtual programs. They did Zoom parties and Zoom movies with the kids. They'd watch movies together and then have, I believe they had a New Year's Eve party. They also did packet pickups. So they had little gift bags of snacks and activities for kids to do. And then they would have Zoom or video programs where the kids could then follow along. We made sure all our staff or all of our members were fed. At the beginning of the pandemic, before schools were offering daily meals to go, it was really difficult for some of our families to get food. That involved getting everybody desks so they had a place to do their schoolwork. And probably what was most impactful is phone calls. We made sure to call every member every week, even if they didn't need anything, just to check in, see how they were doing, what did they need help with. Not only was that important in keeping the relationship with our members, it kept our staff working. And we were very, very proud that we did not have to let anyone go during the pandemic because all of our staff had things to do and were actively working. I got to be in the Davenport Club, working with our members just a few weeks ago, which was very weird for me. That had been over a year since I'd stepped foot in a club. As someone who used to spend, 8, 9, 10 hours a day in the club, very strange that it's been that long. We're still running the programs, but it's definitely a change day to day. A lower capacity, members are spread out. They informed me that they do something called double clean, which is where they clean their desks with soap and water, then sanitize it, and then wash their hands, which I thought was extremely thorough. And they did that every hour. But most importantly, our members still had fun, and they were still connecting with staff. And really, in a year like this, we'll take that. We've got mixed reactions to the kids reopening for school. There's still a staff meeting about what we're going to do for that. I'm assuming we are going to be open, still limited capacity. But again, working with the school district and the kids, making sure that everyone's got it, has what they need. And really our focus going forward is going to be a slow return to normalcy. So returning to the things that the kids loved. We're able to do our cello program with the Quad City Symphony Orchestra. That is resuming soon. In the Figure Art Museum, the Putnam Museum, and we've even continued our Black History Month art contest with US Cellular. The kids asked me to put in a plug that you can vote for your favorite through our Facebook page. But most importantly, again, making sure we're meeting our kids where they are. We are currently training our staff in trauma-informed care. This is something we do anyway with our members, but we are really focusing on the trauma that is going on with COVID and making sure that the pillars of that are being worked with the kids, that they feel safe, that they are trusting their adults, and probably more importantly, that they are having power in their choices. They did not have a lot of choices in the last year. They've been told they had to do certain things. So just giving them a few choices within the club is going to be huge for them. But again, we're excited to be reopening even more as the schools are open more and getting back to our program. Our staff should be vaccinated soon, so that's another great accomplishment for us. And we're desperately excited for spring and summer when we can continue to go back to our regularly scheduled program. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Liz. Does anybody in person here have any questions for Liz? All right, seeing none. Anybody on the phone? All right, thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you very all. Stay safe.
Thank you. Our next presenter will be Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Hello, everyone. I am Sarah Walker, and I'm our Chief Program Officer at Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'm going to do a very short introduction because I do have a parent that will be sharing a little bit about her experiences with Big Brothers Big Sisters. We have served the Quad City community since about 1988. We serve Scott, Rock Island, Henry, Mercer, Whiteside, McDonough counties. About 450 children were matched with a mentor through our organization last year. 40% of those are Davenport kids. So we know that this is a very high population of the kids that we're matching with mentors. Like Liz was saying, really a big part of what our programming focused on this past year was keeping kids connected. We had a lot of time doing match support with our active matches between March and, well, now still. But we also have been slowly trying to get back into as much normalcy as we can. And we've been able to create some new mentoring matches, which we know is still a high need for our kids who are looking for a mentor. So Shonda is going to share a little bit about her experiences, reasons that she decided to enroll her son, Jameer, who is a third grader at Eisenhower and is one of our newer matches.
Hi, my name is LaShonda, and this is my son, Jameer. Hi. And we recently just joined with Big Brother, Big Sister. The reason why I joined was just that I felt that this organization would help my son build his self-confidence. And I figured that it gives the littles, the guidance, and it impacts their lives, for the better. also, I felt that, the matches, the one-on-one matches, between the bigs and the littles, it truly empowers, our youth, and it just straightens our communities. And I just think with the resources and the guidance, I'm saying, it just shows all these littles that, it builds their confidence and shows them that they can do things, outside of their comfort zone. And I just feel like, I'm saying, with raising their confidence, and it just, overall helps their, with their growth throughout.
Excellent. Thanks, Shonda. And hey, Jameer, so can you tell us a little bit about what you thought about Big Brothers Big Sisters? I know you've only seen Ricky a few times since he's a new big brother, but can you tell us anything that you've enjoyed?
I did enjoy doing stuff with him and talking to him and talking about what about him and what about me.
Starting to learn about each other. Can you think of something fun that you've learned about Ricky when you've gotten to hang out with him?
The ranch. He has a ranch with all the animals, remember? That's pretty cool.
That he works on a farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has some land with animals, doesn't he? And you guys are a community-based match, so there's a chance that at some point you'll maybe get to go hang out with some of those animals. That'll be pretty neat.
He looks excited.
I will share, I just got a little bit here. I will share when I was able to be at the match introduction with Ricky and Jameer and LaShonda. Jameer was pretty quiet while we were doing the meeting, while we were talking about logistics and schedules and communication and all of the things that adults have to figure out. He left, though, with a nice little note of all the things that he was listening to and starting to write down ideas of things that he thought he might want to do with Ricky, things he wanted to share with Ricky. So he really, I think, is excited about, getting to meet this new person, getting to experience some things that are going to be a little bit different than what he's done before. And it was pretty impressive to see how engaged he was, even though we had a lot of boring things for a kid while we were doing that very initial match.
Oh, hello, this is Dawn. So we've got about 30 seconds left.
All right, any last things you wanted to share, Shonda?
I'm looking forward to the adventures that we have. I'm just looking forward to all the adventures, and just, I'm just so glad that I was able to get my son into this program. And, we're both just going in open hands and just ready to see what, he can learn and achieve. And I'm just really excited, really happy for him, happy for the both of them. Ricky is very nice. I'm just glad.
Excellent. So yes, and and CDBG funds are really what helps us maintain our Davenport match relationships. So it's very appreciative, and thank you for letting us be here tonight.
Thank you, Sarah, and LaShonda and Jameer. Does anybody in person have any questions for Sarah? No? Anyone on the phone? All right, very well. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presenter will be Family Resources.
Good evening. My name is Allie. I am with Family Resources. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak with you a little bit more about our services tonight. At Family Resources, we provide support and services to survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, homicide, and other violent crimes. CDBG funding specifically provides services for our full-time Scott County legal advocate, as well as a portion of our other domestic abuse advocate that really assists a lot with resource navigating, crisis counseling, and things like that. We do have Ashley on the line with us, so I'll turn it over to Ashley to talk a little bit about her story and a little bit about her experience receiving services at Family Resources.
Hello, I'm Ashley. Back in October, I had an incident, and me and my 1-month-old son, we were held inside my house at gunpoint. And I reached out to Dakota, and she helped me out with getting all the correct paperwork in order to put a restraining order against the person who did it. And she's been very helpful at giving me any resources or anything I could reach out to for like getting therapy or funding to help with getting security systems and stuff up in place for my house so we can feel more secure being at home. And anything I need, she's just a phone call or a text away, or I can go in and see her. And then also when it comes to the court dates, she's right there by my side with me through it all. So I really appreciated her. And when all this stuff, it ended up being on the news and everything, and she was very kind enough to reach out to me immediately afterwards and make sure I was okay with it, and make sure like I was okay mentally and everything and physically, with it being broadcasted all over the news for everybody to see. And I really appreciate them. That's about it.
Thank you, Ashley, for sharing your story. Yeah, Family Resources, throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, we've continued to provide in-person crisis services at our courthouses, which Ashley talked a lot about, as well as at police stations and hospitals. And then we are providing additional longer-term services virtually through Zoom platforms, GoToMeeting, or through text message and things like that. So anytime a survivor has a need, all of our services are free and confidential, and we're just a phone call or a drop-in away for any survivor that may have a resource need, may need assistance navigating civil or criminal legal systems, may need assistance finding a job, or applying for assistance to get things like security cameras that Ashley had mentioned. So CDBG funding is crucial to having those positions and prioritizing those services for survivors in Scott County and particularly in Davenport. So thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk with you about this tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allie and Ashley. Does anyone in person have any questions for Family Resources? Okay. Anyone on the phone? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our next presenter. Thank you again. Salvation Army.
Hello, my name is Kelly Larned. I'm the Program and Operations Director for the Salvation Army Quad City Family Services. I also have Malia Dunn, who's the housing manager for us as well on the line. Just a little bit, we were asking to continue to fund our homeless prevention case manager position. This is a vital piece on what we do. And so we assist people with their rent and deposit for back rent, moving forward, moving into their own home. And I think Edgar is on here to talk about his experience with us and the assistance that we were able to provide him that Allie, the case manager, worked with him. Edgar, I think you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi, how you doing? My name is Edgar Campbell, and I went to the Salvation Army for rental assistance. I'm an Instacart worker, kind of like self-employed, independent contractor, and they gave me the opportunity to assist me with my rent. Not only did they get a chance to assist me with my rent, but they paid it off for a couple of months, like 2 months, 2.5 months, and it gave me the opportunity to get a chance to bounce back and restore my rent and get it to the point to where I can get it paid off all the way up until June, July. Like, even though my rent is paid off, I get a chance to continue to pay on it every month. So I'll be ahead of the game. So I thank them for that opportunity and helping me and meaning a great deal to me.
Thank you, Edgar. Just a little bit about our rent assistance program, homeless prevention, has always been important, but this year with COVID and last year in 2020 has really serving way more people than we have before. In the last 6 months, we've served 337 people in Scott County and Rock Island County, ranging anywhere from $187 to $5,121 that we've paid for people's rent, it based on their situation and what we can help with. The case manager is responsible for doing the application with them, doing the intake. We do budgeting with them to make sure that they can afford the place that they're at, see if there's places that is closed where they can cut out at. We're also doing where we have to talk to the landlord because there's certain documents that the landlord has to fill out and sign. And we also have to verify that the place that they're in is correct, how much they're owing. Sometimes we have to do a little negotiating because sometimes they have a lot of late fees. So we try to say, if we're going to pay the last 3 months, can you take off some late fees? That's been an important part with trying to negotiate with landlords to try to get the money that they want. And we've had a lot of, we have done that pretty well with the landlords of working with them. And they've been willing to work with us because they know we're going to pay. They know us as paying and case management. We also, late fees, we do the budget, and we process all the paperwork. The case managers also, for the check request, they put in the check request that then they're responsible for once the check comes in from our headquarters in Peoria to get that check off to the landlord, whether it's through the mail or the landlord picks it up or we take it to the landlord. It just depends. As I said, this has completely, we're averaging about 100 to 150 calls a day for people who need rent assistance. And we have partnered with Waypoint Call Center and towards the Des Moines area in Linn County for to do some of our assessments that is required for it. And then we take it over from there. And so we collaborate with all the agencies through coordinated entry. And we pull at least around 30 people, 30 households a week and process those applications every Thursday. And then we do the same thing every minute. So we are working as fast as we can to keep up with the need. But the need is greater. That need is going to grow once the moratorium starts to get closer to March. And so we're preparing to do that and continue to help people that need it. I don't know if we have any time left, but I don't know if Malia has anything to add.
We've just got about 30 seconds.
Okay.
If I could just add a couple of things. Because of the CDBG funding that we received, we're able to restore dignity and empowerment to people that we serve. There's a constant emphasis on quality of service in our programs as we're working with people who are vulnerable to the risk of homelessness, most of which who have never been homeless before. As Edgar mentioned, we are seeing a lot more people who have been self-employed, people who are over 45, dual income people. And so the pandemic has exacerbated housing instability, and we have brought hope to our community through this service. So we want to thank you for your generosity.
Thank you. And thank you, Edgar.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. Does anybody in person have any questions? All right, anybody on the phone? Okay. On to our next item. Thank you again. Housing Rehabilitation and Neighborhood Revitalization Fund.
Hi, that's going to be me. So I'm Dawn Cameron. I'm the lead financial specialist for the city of Davenport. I'm here on behalf of our housing rehab team. We are requesting funding to continue our housing projects. Oh, hello. Okay, that's fine. Thought I was going to get away with that. Apparently that isn't going to happen. So programs like the DREAM CDBG Exterior Program, Exterior Accessibility, owner-occupied housing programs, and emergencies such as, furnaces in the middle of winter, safety hazards, plumbing, electricity, roofs that are leaking. That's included in there. And then we also have our eligible infrastructure projects that are making improvements in those key areas. So these programs have continued through COVID. Staff have made safety protocols to ensure, the safety of our beneficiaries as well as our staff. and have worked through barriers such as delays in building materials, contractor just delays because now projects are backed up a bit. And so staff are working through those to ensure that our participants receive those benefits. Along with our normal programming, the staff have taken on a rental assistance program and are in the process of working through state COVID funding. I would say we really are all about resiliency when it comes to the staff and problem solving these days. Our goal is not only to take on these new programs, which truly are new to us, but also to ensure that the programs that you recommend that we continue to have our funding, that we keep those going as well. So I do consider it all hands on deck. It's probably one of the, I guess, hardest times for staff, but also maybe one of the best as you see everyone come together to help each other out. So we're getting through it for sure. Just want to thank you for your consideration on behalf of the Housing Rehab team.
Thank you, Dawn. Does anyone in person have any questions? Anyone on the phone? Okay. And next, CDBG Staff and Operations.
Hello, it's Heather Johnson here. I'm a familiar face, I know, because one of the things the staff and operations costs pay for is for the staff to support the CAC. So each year we come and we talk about the need for the planning and administration dollars and how the fact that if we didn't have the planning and administration dollars, all of the programs that we just heard from our subrecipients would not be able to be delivered. So the things that we do on the planning and administration side are not optional things, they're mandatory. So if we decided we didn't want to do them or we didn't want to fund them, then that would mean none of the subrecipients would get funded either. So, and this year, as we know, is a year like no other. And so Dawn alluded to it a little bit, but our administrative staff and our program staff have been tested quite significantly this year. So we've had to do all of the same things we always talk about us doing. So we do our public input, we do our consultation with our nonprofit groups and our stakeholders in the community. We create our plans, we do our reports, public hearings. This year we did all of that, but we did it remotely in large part. We had virtual public hearings, which we've never had before. We had virtual meetings that we've never had before. We did all of our same programs that we always have done, but we also developed 7 new programs. So that are in various stages of launch. So we have programs that, like TBRA, tenant-based rental assistance, that have already been launched, executed, and completed. We have ones that are underway right now, like our small business resiliency programs. And then we have ones that we are in the process of developing and getting ready to launch, like our upcoming homeless assistance and rent and mortgage resiliency programs. So in a normal year, we start the year with the same programs that we end the year with, and that is obviously not the case this year. We're doing all of our same regular activities with more added on. So we do our annual plan every year. In a typical year, in the 11 years that I've been here, we have done 1 amendment to an annual plan in all of that time. This year, we've already done 3 amendments to our annual plan. And so each of those amendments is kind of like doing a plan anew each time. And so we're doing it all with the same staff that we've always done. We haven't added any staff to it. We're just doing more and different things than we've had to do before. And those administrative activities are even more important than they ever were. We've always felt it was important that we process things quickly and process payments quickly and get activities out quickly because our nonprofits and our clients, their clients need us to. But in this year, when not only the individual clients are hurting financially, the nonprofits are hurting financially too, and they just can't carry those costs for as long as maybe they could in a different year. So while we've always felt that it's important to pay quickly, this year we've really ensured that nobody's had to wait because they can't afford to wait at any stage. So all of these things are things that we would ordinarily have been doing. We're just doing more of it, a greater variety of it. And like Dawn said, I really have to thank our program staff. For example, Megan Overton is here. She does our environmental reviews. And we got over 600 applications for our tenant-based rental assistance program. And we funded over 120 households for that. And each one of those had to have its own separate environmental review. So every time somebody got assistance, it went through Megan's hands, it went through my hands, it went through Dawn's hands at various stages of the game. And that all came out of planning and admin, because that doesn't have its own program and administrative costs. It has to come through admin. So the dollars that we receive make all of these other programs possible, and we're always very appreciative. We're very frugal with our dollars. The only increase that you'll see in our request is in our indirect costs, which are just costs that the city says that we have to pay. Oh, I get time too. And so we've tried to be frugal. We've tried to keep the line level, even though we're facing a lot of challenges, just as everyone is. So thank you very much for your consideration, and we very much appreciate the funding.
Thank you, Heather. Does anybody in person have any questions? Anyone on the phone? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item as we're finished with the presentations, review and approve minutes of the January 4th, 2021 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Just a second. I did want one comment. I noticed that the Economic Development Fund jumped from 15,000 used to 175,000, and I just wanted to comment on that and commend them for putting that money out.
And that is, just to give a little clarity around that, that is around that same small business resiliency program that we're operating with our COVID dollars, which remember are separate from CDBG. There were some businesses that applied for those special COVID dollars that didn't qualify for them, but did qualify for the regular CDBG small business assistance, and so they were just moved over into the regular CDBG. So they're trying to make sure they help everybody, even if it's not out of the same pot of money they planned on helping them out of.
Well, I'm just glad to see the money on the street.
Yes, they're working on it. Thank you. I'll pass that along.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Heather, will you call roll?
One thing, we're approving the minutes here, and Fred Klassen did bring to our attention an error in the minutes via email, that he should have been counted present, and he was not. So we're going to make that correction. So it will be amended minutes that we get approved today.
Thank you, and I'm here again tonight.
We'll try hard to get you on the list. And this could be a simple majority, unless the CAC desires. We don't have to do a roll call for this, unless there's a choice.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Just clarifying, those on the phone, those are ayes to approve, correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right, those are approved and accepted. Next item is to review and accept the financial report through October.
Motion to approve. I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
I need to slow down a little bit. Again, just confirming those are ayes to approve.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Very good. All right, our next action item, year 45 late audit extension request from Family Resources.
You'll see in your packet, there's an action item on this. So last month, the CAC approved an extension request for Family Resources to turn in their audit. The deadline that was issued was January 22nd. Family Resources was not able to meet that deadline and are requesting another extension. And that extension would be through February 8th, which is the end of the week. So it's before the CAC to vote on if they would like to offer that second extension.
Chris, you have a comment?
I just want to briefly go over the whole timeline because I'm having an issue with another extension. The original extension request should have been done November 1st. Their board voted to approve asking for an extension on December 16th. However, the city didn't receive that request until a week later on December 23rd. Originally, the board had voted to request an extension to January 15th, and on January 4th CAC meeting, we decided to extend it to January 22nd, again, giving them an additional week cushion. Then on January 22nd, let's see, they said they would need another week, and there was a January 8th email I saw where they said they anticipated the financial audit would be done by January 22nd. And I did that kind of out of order. But then on January 22nd, they asked if they could get another week. However, when the request came in, they're asking for an extension to February 8th. So in my mind, they don't have a clue when they're going to have the financial audit done.
Do I have a motion from anyone to? Oh.
This is Reagan. I would motion to approve the extension to February 8th.
I'm sorry, Reagan. It's a little awkward because we can't see each other, but we do have a member here who I think was making a comment, just didn't have her microphone on. So if you don't mind, can we finish her comment and then we can move to your motion?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Sorry for that.
Did they say why they're requesting the extension?
The only information that we have as staff is the letter that was included, which is that letter that's in your packet dated January 28th. And so they didn't state in the email any particular reason. It just said the audit process experienced delays and is unable to be finalized by the deadline, is all the letter said. Previously, they had said that that they were awaiting guidance on how to complete a single audit on the CARES Act funding. That was their previous, the letter, which I probably should have included in this, but in last month's packet, that was their letter.
Yeah, I'm going to second the motion so we can discuss it. And I would like to know if staff has a recommendation.
I just would like Reagan to restate her motion just so we can get it written down properly.
Sure. This is Reagan, and I will motion to approve the extension to February 8th for Family Resources audit admission.
And Fred, you second that motion? Okay.
All right, a motion and a second. Go ahead with the staff recommendation and we'll proceed with discussion after that.
I'm sorry, can you, I didn't quite hear what you said, Fred.
Oh, I was just saying, we can proceed with discussion after
with
your
discussion,
recommendation.
yes.
Yep.
Well, On these matters, staff doesn't typically, we wouldn't tell the CAC what you would need to vote on one way or the other. I would just reiterate what we had talked about last month, which is the deadline date that we state for the audit is a city-imposed deadline. It's not a HUD-imposed deadline. The HUD guidance in terms of our subrecipient management requirements says that we have to have sufficient oversight of them and review their finances to make sure that they are stable and have the capacity to deliver the programs that we're funding. But the HUD guidance does not really say at which point in the process that needs to happen. So from a staff perspective, as we talked about last month, obviously when we initially set the deadline, it was to have the information in hand in time for the same as the application, which obviously we've missed that deadline now. Then the original concept of the January 15th for the extension was so we would have that information in hand when the CAC had their work session, which we're past that date now also. So in staff's mind, the kind of remaining points at which it would make sense to get an audit would be the March allocation meeting. We would, probably want to have an audit in hand so that we could review some information before any award recommendations are made. But failing that, I would say from a staff perspective, the absolute drop dead deadline obviously would be we wouldn't sign any contracts until we had received the audit. But again, HUD does not impose a date. We chose the date. The CAC chose the date as a consensus.
I have a question here. My question is, according to the applications, are the applications considered as complete if it does not have the audit with it?
That's for the CAC to decide. So when the extension policy was first conceived in 2017, the discussion at that time and the way the policy was written was that if you didn't turn in an audit and you didn't have an approved audit extension request, then your application would not be considered complete and you would not be eligible for funding. In this case, they were approved for an audit extension request through January the 22nd. So the question of whether or not they have a quote complete application was covered by the extension up until now. And then, so now the question is, do we have another extension, in which case they kind of have a complete application until that extension expires and or they turn in the extension or the audit itself. So, so yeah, that's kind of, the chicken and egg sort of situation we're in.
Maybe the other part of the question is, if they didn't ask for the extensions before the previous one ended, then can they ask for one after the extension is supposed to have gotten here? And the last part of that will be, and then I'll be off. The last part of that will be, then how many extensions are we able to, are we going to allow, or are we able to allow?
So to answer, I mean, we were notified on the date that the last extension expired that they weren't going to make it and we're asking for another extension. So, in my mind, I would say that's a different thing than just we didn't hear anything from them until 3 days later and then they talked to us. So there's that. But they didn't get the formal request, the formal letter from their board until the next week. That is true. But they did notify us that they weren't going to make it. And then to your question of how many audits can you grant, that is, or how many extensions can you grant, that is for the CAC to decide. Again, from a staff perspective, I think there are several milestones where it makes sense that we would need an audit by, preferably, obviously, by the time any financial recommendations are made, but certainly before any contracts are signed. From a staff perspective, we wouldn't probably feel comfortable signing a contract without knowing their financial position.
We've gone down this road before with other agencies, and it has created some problems. And that's one of the reasons that I'm saying it.
Yeah, I was here then. I hear you.
And one thing that I failed to mention is that in addition to missing two, what I consider major deadlines that they should have met, they have also had 3 missed or incorrect payout requests. So now I have great concern over their financial ability. And since, you know, we've had a moving audit deadline with them of their own doing, that what happens if they don't give us that audit on February 8th? I can just see another extension request coming. And it hurts me to say this about that because I love their program, but I have to put that aside and look at the numbers, and the numbers aren't matching.
Yeah, one of the score sheets, one of the sections has timely submission of reports or something like that. And I mean, the longer they take and the more deadlines they miss, the closer they get to 0, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, I don't have a problem with granting them an extension with the understanding that lowers their score in that section. So that's all I have to say.
And that's something we can certainly convey when, you know, when a decision is made, we can let them know that as well.
Yeah, I agree with what Mr. Gilmore said. Do they have a change of staff recently that would have impacted this? I mean,
Yes, on both the kind of bookkeeping level and also the financial director level.
okay.
So the emails you're getting from, I think it's Joel, he's new.
Because have we had problems in the past with this particular organization? I don't recall anything. I was just wondering if there was some kind of an explanation. I do agree that they're going to pay the price. If we don't accept them, the application, they get 0. If we do accept the application, they can be at the bottom of the pile, is what it amounts to. And I hate to just totally X anybody out that does good work.
I just want to make sure they have to do this single audit because they participated in the CARE program, correct?
They have to get a single audit because in total from all their federal sources, they've received over $750,000 in federal money, some of which was CARES, some of which is CDBG, and some of which is other sources. So
Okay.
That is correct. They have to do a single audit because of the total amount of federal money that they received, which includes CARES.
And then from what I understand, they were waiting on audit guidance due to the CARE.
That's what they had said in their previous request last month, was that they didn't yet have all the information they needed.
Okay, and I'm just going to let you know from my experience with working with this CARE program, when the bill was signed for this CARE program, Washington DC did not know how they were even going to do this. There was no guidance whatsoever. And then the guidance that did come out was very fluid. It changed all the time. Every hour you were getting a change from a change to the change that they did an hour ago. So I think in this case, I think that maybe we should be a little bit put into understanding what has gone on for this past year, and maybe just kind of maybe give them a little bit of a break. It's not like we have this problem with them every single year, but that's just my opinion.
Does anyone on the phone have any comments?
This is Reagan. I would just like to comment kind of on that, in that same tone. I agree. I think that the 2017 policy that was created by the CAC was smart and is a good policy, but would agree on that tone that it's sort of unique circumstances this year and a hurdle that I don't think Family Resources expected to have to jump. And so for that, you know, I would tend toward giving them some leniency in that. I also think something to be considered maybe in the future, based on what Heather said, maybe we need to create some sort of policy stating that, if, the audit's not received, that funding will not be issued, that money won't go out. So until their file's complete. So something along those lines.
And I would, Reagan or any CAC member, agree that it's a policy the CAC made and certainly a policy the CAC can formally amend. And, after this allocation cycle is complete, if that was something that the group wants to revisit, we can certainly do that. There's, nothing sacred about the policy as it stands. It can be amended. I do think it's a good idea to have a formal policy because, as Joseph pointed out, when we didn't, we had maybe a different set of problems. But we can certainly revisit it and revise it if the current CAC feels it merits revision.
Okay, so from what I was getting in, a lot of the problem has to do with the clarification of how to do an audit because it involves another funding source. Is that what is where the problem is coming from?
That's what they've stated in their last letter, not in the current one, but in their previous one. That is what they said.
Is there any way that we could get something from them that lets us know that that agency is where this problem is coming from? So we have an idea of why we're still waiting?
I would suggest that if the CAC grants another extension through whatever date it is that they've requested, we can certainly say that they need to have something in writing from their auditor with a firm, a little bit more of an explanation maybe than what they've given, if that's the CAC's wish.
Was someone on
I
the
just
phone?
have a problem.
Go
I
ahead,
just have a problem with them saying how we're going to have by the 28th and then 28th pass now another week. And how long is they going to drag us on here?
I think what happened, and I'd like to be hard-lined on it too and say we're just gonna lop it off here and that's the end of it. But I think what happened is they got somebody new in there that didn't understand how long it was gonna take to get this audit done. I think that's what it is. I'm guessing, I don't know. Like I said, if we do pass it, they can be on the bottom of everybody's list. They'll get something. If we don't pass it, they will get nothing. If you want to be hardline, that's a good place to do it, I guess, because we would be justified to be hardline. But I think ultimately it's the people they serve that gets penalized.
One other thing that happens is since we are making this proposal, it still has to go through the city. So that is where we ran into problems with things when certain agencies didn't get what they wanted. They would then go to the city council and deal with it at the city council.
Joseph, just for our new members who may not be aware, just as a reminder, I think what you're referring to is the CAC is a recommendation body to the city council. So the CAC makes a recommendation for funding decisions, and the city council can choose to accept those funding decisions, reject them entirely, or accept them in part and make changes to some parts. And we've had all of those things happen in the past. I would say the vast majority of times, the city council has just accepted the recommendation of the CAC without comment, but there have been a few times in the past where the CAC has had their recommendations not accepted by city council. So just to clarify for new members who may not be aware of the process.
And regretfully, one of the times it happened, it was with Family Resources.
All right, seeing no further comment, we do have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and take a, oh, Nancy, sorry, Nancy. Go ahead.
That's okay. Well, I just had a question, because this is a document that each organization had to provide if they reached a certain level of funding, correct?
All agencies have to provide an audit, so they all have that requirement. If an agency receives more than a certain amount of federal funding, which is $750,000, and that's from all sources, not just ours, then it kind of kicks them into a higher level of audit, which is called a single audit. And as of this moment, this is the only agency that has triggered that requirement. All the rest of them are regular audits for the current year, we believe.
Okay. So is it inappropriate to ask for some documentation from their accounting firm to help support?
No, I think that's
why?
I think that's entirely appropriate. And we did in our last month's letter, last month's packet, there was a letter from their auditor who referenced the CARES guidance. And we can ask for an additional letter. We can get more documentation for the extended delay, if that's the CAC's choice.
That's what I would like to, I guess, to be compassionate, because it's pandemic. And I don't want to see the I feel bad that the organization will be penalized if they are having a change of staffing or leadership issues, plus an additional audit of a higher level can be, giving them the opportunity to be transparent to us on, which they should be as a non-for-profit anyway, giving them that opportunity so that we give them steps that they have to meet to get that granted extension. And it's something that, like I heard the scorecard get mentioned, we have more information to utilize with the scorecard.
Mm-hmm.
They need to work for it. In other words, show us where's your compelling request for what's going on here, so that they should work a little bit harder at helping to be convincing for the level of care that they're giving to people within our community.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm making sense.
No, it
here.
does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and yeah, we have to draw a line. I mean, that certainly, something's not working in concert with them over there. So we need to help them to make that happen. And then if they don't, we did our job to help them help themselves and help us in making this opportunity for them.
Chris?
I just wanted to clarify that this is not the first year they have had to do the single audit, because they hit that level of funding every year. The issue this year was the guidance on the CARE money. So in my mind, they should have had all of the financial audit done except for that one pool of money. And that was an item I had asked about, and they had indicated they could provide what they had given the city in the prior years, but they still are not providing that. The other thing is the change date. The new person came in December 8th, and having worked for a very large nonprofit, by December 8th, the audit should have been well underway So that's where my concern is kind of going, is that if that change in personnel has thrown this big of a monkey wrench, it's making me very, very nervous.
And I guess I just have a follow-up question. Since we don't meet on the 9th, what happens in the event that it doesn't come in by the 8th?
I would say it would be a similar situation to what we talked about last month, that if we set the deadline as the 8th and they don't meet it, we would tell them, you need to make your case for the CAC, and we'd bring that back to you at the March meeting, which is March 1st. So in that sense, if you remember last month, I had said, let me look at the dates, but last month I had said, we were talking about January 15th, and I had said from a staff perspective, it doesn't cost us anything to give them a little bit of extra time, and because we weren't going to meet again quite so soon anyway. And I would propose that the same is true of this month. If the CAC were so inclined and they wanted to give them another week, it wouldn't cost us anything in terms of time, because it'd just be sitting on a shelf waiting to get back to you anyway. So, but that's all that would happen. If they missed the deadline, we'd say, come up with a new set of documents to submit to the CAC, and then we'd bring it back to you on March.
So could you email us and let us know? Keep us apprised as to
On the date that it's due?
the 9th or whatever?
Yeah, yep, we absolutely can. But it would be informational, because as public
Right.
meetings, no decisions can be made, no discussion, but we can certainly inform you via email, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have not voted yet, so just FYI.
Seeing no other further comments, unless somebody does, go ahead. Did you have another comment?
Yeah, I was just wondering if, with the motion that was on the floor, if they could consider adding on the part about that we need some kind of something in writing to justify what's going on, the extension. Not just we need it, but what's going on, when, why do we need it, and at what point in time will we have it, so that we can then have a complete application.
So this is Reagan. I would amend my motion to approve the extension until February 8th, so long as they can provide a letter of explanation from their auditor, no later than, I would say, February, 3rd? How does?
That's Wednesday, assuming we tell them tomorrow, and, you know, it depends on their auditor's work schedule. I would say that might be a little bit soon. I mean, the timeline here is very quick.
I'm gonna go since Friday, February 5th. And I think, in my experience, that should be well enough time for somebody to get a letter out.
Okay. Yep.
I'll amend the second to agree with the amended motion.
That's February 5th.
Yes, February 5th is Friday.
All right. We have a motion and a second. I think we should probably do a roll call vote on this one.
Okay.
Obleton? Hodges?
Yes.
Lord? Bird?
Yes.
Klassen?
Yes.
Miller? Gilmore?
Yes.
Kiefer?
No.
Nolan?
Yes.
Patel?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
And Winkler?
Yes.
Is that everybody?
Yeah.
Motion.
The motion carries.
Motion carries. Next item is other business. Does anybody have anything that they would like to bring up to the commission?
From a staff perspective, for other business, we just want to remind you all that our next meeting is March 1st. That is our allocation meeting. At this moment, we have no reason to believe it will be a fully in-person meeting, so it will likely be this hybrid that we have been doing the last few months. We absolutely do 100% need a quorum for our allocation meetings. So, you know, we really do, especially in this hybrid format, need RSVPs from everybody to let us know, A, if you're coming, and B, which method you'll be participating in. And then the other thing I will remind you is that you have in your packet, and I will resend because apparently I didn't send the Excel version, your score sheets. So these would be your scoring forms for scoring the applications. Those are due back to us by the end of the day on February 22nd. You do have to score all the applications completely for your scores to be counted. And then just for the benefit of our new members, we take all of your scores, we aggregate them, and we plug them into a formula. And the formula generates some recommended allocation amounts that then you will review and vote on at the March meeting. And those allocation amounts are just that. They're calculated, they're recommended, but the CAC can choose to discuss them and override them if they would so choose on allocation night. To do that, to change a formula recommended amount, you would need a 2/3 majority vote. And the motion to make the change would require that you identify where the money is coming from, where the money is moving to, and the reason for the move. But the changes are absolutely possible. So I will resend the spreadsheets out to you if you have any questions at all. Both Dawn and I are available anytime. Give us a call or an email. We can set up a time, especially newer members. I think sometimes it can be confusing. And then I would also urge newer members, if you have not gone through the scoring process before, you should have the contact list, but we'll resend it. Feel free to reach out to other CAC members about how they do their scores. They are good sources of guidance and wisdom for how to do it. If you feel like you need a little helping hand aside from staff. So with that, I believe that is all the business, other business that
We have one more
we have.
comment.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell, for the benefit of the new members, on the scoring, as long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter if you're high or low, as long as you're consistent and you treat them all in a uniform manner, the scores will average out. And that was something I was really concerned about my first year doing this. If you're consistent and you score the same way on each one, it doesn't matter if you score one as a 9 and somebody else scores them as a 6, as long as you're consistent in the rest of your scoring.
I think that's a good point. And one thing we also do always tell everyone as staff is to remember, you are not scoring the program, you're scoring the application. So they're all good programs. They are all doing wonderful things. We support them and you know, wish them well in terms of, you know, they're providing great service for low-income residents, and that's the whole reason we're here. But you aren't scoring the worthiness of the program, you're scoring the application and the performance of the program. So that's always a good reminder for everyone, I think, because it's, you know, it's tough. They're all good. They're all doing good things in the community. So just keep in mind you're scoring the quality and the content of the application and the performance of the agency in their past grants is really what you're scoring. Okay, and from staff side, that's all we have.
All right. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for bearing with me in figuring out parliamentary procedure and all that sort of thing. It's my first time doing this. So.
You did great. You did great. Thank you for
Thank you.
stepping in at the last minute.
Sure
We as
thing.
staff really appreciate that.
And
Thank you.
our last step is to adjourn. So could I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second it then.
All right. Very good. All right. And all in favor? Opposed?
Aye. Great job, Austin.
All right, meeting is concluded.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for calling in. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the very beginning.
Thank
Have
you.
have a good night. Bye, everybody.